Thank you very much. So that was another amazing example of how media is portraying the message that we need to act and that the solutions are in our hands and that we are ready to transition. So we're going to continue right along that thread and see how creativity and the use of media and filmmaking can help encourage people to, take up the environmental cause as well as the climate change cause, which has become a lot broader than an environmental issue, and help implement the Sustainable Development Goals, which were highlighted so well in that film. So thank you, Nelson Cabrera. You're from New Jersey originally.
Originally from New Jersey, and an NYU film student many moon years ago when Spike Lee was there, so you can imagine how old I am.
Fantastic. So you've really, been involved in the filmmaking industry for quite a while. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit of how you, picked up on the green theme, picked up on the realization that, green growth and green development is so important for, our collective whole, and how you're using film to portray that.
The way we came about, especially myself, I've been in the film business for over almost 30 years. I'm in my 50s. And I realized throughout many motion pictures, I've done 27 motion pictures, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, and environmentally, we were never safe. There was so much stuff being thrown away on a set. Plastic, walls, paint, and they got to a point about 2 or 3 years ago that we started looking into it. I have my own production company. I live in Fort Lauderdale, have offices in New York and LA. We work internationally. And realized that every time I go to China, on film sets, we have recyclable bins. And how do we not have that in the United States? So basically, we came back and started introducing the concept through the unions and through our production company to take the forefront of start to recycle stuff on the set. I mean, if you imagine a motion picture, when you start destroying film sets that are worth $100 million, there's a lot of stuff that just goes into the garbage. So we started implementing things like that through our company and through our business, and just through exposure of, exposing Hollywood to it, because we're a wasteful industry.
Absolutely, and the film industry being so influential can also be a, really forward-looking industry and can be a guidance to a lot of other industries. And that's what our Film for Climate initiative under the Connect4Climate program very much focuses on. So besides using film as a narrative for climate action, it's also to really tackle, sustainability within the industry and incorporate climate footprinting, carbon footprinting, as well as efficient resource use within productions, within film festivals. And there's a real exciting movement within the film industry and amongst filmmakers who are taking that forward.
So there's an avenue right now called impact space, which is very at the forefront. People are actually starting to talk about what's called impact space, which means that we are now starting to really think green in the film business and how to get products or brands to start switching over. Talking to Walmart, talking to certain branding or certain brands, how to make themselves green, because they really ultimately don't know. They know, but in corporate America, they seem to go after what they go after. So I think through film, social media, especially the young folks, they're the leaders of this movement. But visually, it's still visual. When you can show a film to someone and you have 100 million people see it, that's a big deal.
But I mean, let's also not forget the old people. Like, they're also leading this movement.
No, of course. I mean, I see the young people as the soldiers. You know what I mean? Because we have the experience to lead. But there's a certain point where I certainly can't do it myself. But if I incorporate the younger generation, because I can certainly retire at this point. Like, my wife's sitting and going, we should retire. I'm like, no, we should teach, and we should follow, and we should have these people really get on board and help, because we need an army to do this. This is not something I'm going to do by myself or anyone out here. We need a movement, and that movement is coming or is already here.
Absolutely, and we're seeing a lot of the movement in the private sector where, under the We Mean Business Coalition, for example, there's a bunch of companies whose net worth is around $22 trillion. So that's like a sizable chunk of the private industry, including Apple and IKEA, Unilever. And those are the stories that need to be told in a very creative and engaging and emotional way. So maybe we could just go to your latest production, to Saltwater.
So Saltwater, the first film we're going to show you is the actual movie that we shot, and it basically became a movement around the world, and we'll show you the case study. The case study, after we shot the film, and we basically did it on a shoestring budget, and we spent zero money on advertising, but we have something like 4 billion imprints on this one film. So we'll show you the first film that we shot, which is just the storytelling part of it, and then we'll show you the case study to show you what we accomplished with almost no funds whatsoever.
Okay, fantastic. So could we play that? Fantastic. I mean, like, and I think that's a real showcase of the power of social media. So once you have an amazing product, an idea that is going to, revolutionize the industry, the pickup is just phenomenal, and the best way of putting it out there is through a video. So
I also realized that we were the ones that invented the product. We were sitting around with the advertising agency on a film set. We were discussing, all the issues that we having throwing stuff away, and we had so much plastic on the set that we started talking about, well, how do we make these rings biodegradable? And this was less than a year ago that we started thinking about this, and in less than a year we have this product to market, and now they're producing 100,000 of these a month. They need to ramp it up to over $7 or $8 million a month. So that becomes also social economics, where you start hiring people to build these things, and they're getting, they're looking to have companies in Detroit and in Los Angeles to start building these things. Right now they're just building machines to get this up to scale.
Yeah. And I mean, from that kind of an example, it's easy to see that, in 5-10 years' time, we will not be using any more plastic.
That's
because
right.
There's no need for it. We have the tools at hand, and this is a prime example of how we can use biodegradable products to get rid of all that plastic waste in our society.
Right. And what we learned from the film too was that, first of all, there's no instructions how to get there. As a film director, as a filmmaker, there's no instructions. It's not on page 16 how to develop this stuff. So we learned so much from social media and how to deal with social media, because there's certain specific ways, and almost having a strategy. You can make a great film, but you have to have a strategy how to get the film out. And what we learned was an enormous amount of stuff, that how to get to The Guardian, how to get to Wall Street Journal, how to get to Facebook. So we learned the process of how to do it, which was not there before. And now, so our company is strategizing with other companies on how to get, because you can get 1,000 people to watch it on Facebook, but if you can get 5 billion imprints, that's a big deal. It just took off.
Yeah, and so taking that story a step further, you then went out and made another film.
Well,
right?
the other film we're going to show is the prior film that okay. went out. This is more or less the case study, which is what happened after the film.
Okay.
So if you want to show the original film, that's...
And the original film, just to contextualize it, that was also presented to the advertising industry, right?
Well, that was the one that was the avenue that got us there. That's the film that we shot, a 2-minute film, and we put it on social media. The case study is what happened later. But the first one won every major award. We won 4 Cannes Lions this year, which is basically like winning the Oscar. We've won every major award in the country. Internationally, we just won the London Film Festival, which is a very exclusive film festival to win. At this point, I'm running out of shell with, there's like 14 or 15 awards that have come into the office. So it just keeps winning award. And the more award you win, obviously, the more exposure there is.
That's incredible, and I mean, obviously it's testament to your incredible filmmaking talent, but also to the desire of people wanting to hear the right kind of a story.
Yeah, I think this is a special 1 or 2 in a lifetime type event that happens, because it was a product that's just at the forefront of changing things. Because not only can you do the six packs, but then you get into disposable, other stuff that you can do. We're thinking now that this can go into hangers. How many hangers get thrown away? Just plastic hangers get thrown away. Now, if you can get a hanger and sell them to Walmart, and they're biodegradable, people throw hangers out all the time. That's one product. Now think about everything else that you need around the house.
Exactly, and even just packaging. So at the World Bank, we actually have biodegradable cellulose packaging instead of plastic.
Correct. I mean, this package, for example, now has been studied that it biodegrades in a landfill in 2 months, in the ocean in a couple of days. So if you drop it off a boat, it's a couple of days. It's not going to, no fish is going to eat it. Especially as we know in the Pacific Ocean, what's going on with the plastic, junkyard.
Oh yeah, exactly. So let's see the original product and see how you feel about that.
We wanted to hold ourselves back with how to shoot it. So it looks a little downgrade, just to get people to involve, not to have this like great, filmmaking, because I obviously could have shot this much better, but we shot it with, we constrain ourselves a little bit, that's another talent that you need to have if you want to get across to social media.
Absolutely, and I think it really brought across that personal, real story. So I'd like to open it up to the audience and see if there are any questions for you, Nelson. So as we wait to see if anybody raises their hands, I just wanted to pick up on the digital media aspect. So in your career as a filmmaker, have you felt that you had to, well, you already kind of expressed it now, but have you felt that you had to change your filmmaking skills to really work with the digital media process?
Yeah. I mean, I've started 30 years ago where we had no digital. We had film and, black and white, reel to reel. So now I think the branding has become, or I shouldn't say the branding, but the social environment that we're now, and it's basically breaking down where before we had budgets for two or three things. For example, we had radio, we had film or TV, and then we had signs. But now that media budget has broken down to about 30 or 40 areas, which is the internet, radio, everything else. So we have to work within that constraint of less money, but more talent. So I've seen a huge change, and I think digital is the way to go. I think social media is definitely what is the next forefront. I think we're actually just crawling right now with the internet and with social media. I think in the next 5 years, it's just going to open up even more. I think it's just a vast amount of what's coming.
And it's just so exciting to link that up with the sustainable development agenda and to bring them together as two powerful forces that'll change our world. So any other questions from the audience? Don't be shy. There's a roaming mic behind you.
Hi, so thank you for that. It was a wonderful film. Touching on one of your last comments, I was under the impression that normally higher quality gets more coverage in social media, and you said you kind of had to at least dumb it down a little bit with the production value. So can you explain that in a little more depth, please?
I think when you hire someone like me, I tend to go high end. I will shoot something really high end because that's what I'm used to. So what we did was talked about it with the advertising agency and how to get more people involved. So if you put something really high end, even though the documentary you'll see later, that's not high end, that's just a documentary. You could do a lot better visually, more interesting pictures. So people, when you in film theory, and I have a master's degree from NYU, you get into film theory, you think if you put certain beautiful pictures out there, people confuse themselves into having a dream or having being in a motion picture, where you don't want them to be in a motion picture because you want them to be in a reality show, because this is starting to be a really scary reality show. So by doing that, that's more of a reality show based, where it's not so great lighting, as opposed to giving you something where you go like, it's another cop show. So that's where the theory comes from. And it obviously seemed to work, because to us, we're actually starting to do more films like that.
Isabel?
Okay, thanks. I wanted to ask about the length of videos. Since in social media, they're shorter, but then how can you still tell your story within that length?
Well, that's where great storytelling comes in and filmmaking comes in and experience comes in, because 2-minute films, we know for a fact now that more than 2 minutes, people don't stick around. You can get a 4 or 5 minute film, but 2 minutes is actually the one, I think it's 154 is the average film. After that, people just disappear. Our minds are not working like that anymore, especially the younger people. They watch if you get them to watch something on social media for 4 minutes, that's a long time. So 2 minutes is really the cutoff point, and so you really have to tell your story. You really have to tell a story within those 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So can you please expand a little bit on that point? What role has social media played in communicating the impact of the social program. So once you've actually created the content of that video, you did talk about it being posted to Facebook and so on. You mentioned strategies. Can you be specific about what those strategies were in engaging the audience?
Yes. So as a filmmaker and as someone who is now in the digital arena, in the social media arena, we realized that I certainly couldn't do it myself. I didn't have the experience. So having enough people around you, have enough experts. You have to hire the experts. Like, you hire me to shoot it, I can write it, I can edit it, I can do it, but I don't know how to get it out to the media. So we have social strategists, or what we call strategists now. So what we did with this film was, I'm the filmmaking part and the writing part and the branding part. We have strategists who work with us. We have PR companies that work with us. And those people, they make pretty good money, and you find which ones are expert at what they do. So we brought this whole unity, which I never had. I would shoot a commercial for an advertising agency, see it on the air, and say la vie, right? But now it's become more of an involvement with us, and more of my company's now starting to getting everybody together. It's a circle that you have to create.
Do you try to tell your story in a different way? And I'll give you the reason why I asked that. Climate change has been such a controversial subject, especially in the US. People say scientists are not the best communicators. You're not a scientist, you're the movie maker, correct? How can we play that role to make that story impactful across the nation where the subject is so controversial? So how do you do that?
I've actually thought about that a lot. I mean, I think there's the believers and the non-believers. Non-believers, obviously, by the election that just happened, they're non-believers. You're never going to change your mind, or you're maybe going to get 10% of them. So you have to go after the believers, the people that actually believe what's going on, and try to get that movement going. Because the non-believers are not the non-believers. So I think strategizing, hiring the right people to get that message across is where it's at.
And we have one more question. So we're running a little bit tight on time. So no, we'll take your question.
Has there been an urgency to record more storytelling and art in countries or environments that are at greatest risk of climate change or habitat alteration? Like, has there been an impetus to focus on those areas? Like, say, Amazonian areas, or areas like the Maldives, or areas?
I mean, right now, we consider ourselves the vice of climate change, because we're trying to get into other. We have avenues all over the world, and I've been talking to my partners in China and South America about doing that stuff. I am not ultimately there yet, but I think there's a need to do that. We're actually putting diapers on at this point. This is, just to be totally honest, this has been in the last year and a half. This is nothing that's been around. So we're basically feeling the market out right now, but there's definitely change coming everywhere, and what we're trying to do is almost create a vice network through my company, where it's like we have connections in China, we have connections in South Africa. So we want to put that into and create the climate change and start thinking about the 17 sustainable goals. That's the ultimate goal, and we're trying to grow that right now. So basically, we just put the diapers on. We're not even crawling at this point.
Thank you.
So you've heard it. It's a really exciting time coming out of 2015, when we agreed to the Sustainable Development Goals, when we had the Paris Agreement. There's definitely a growing awareness, and every industry, including the creative industries, are leading to transition to this low-carbon future. I think it's really exciting how you managed to merge both the actual narrative and making the films with the new product, and getting it out there into a new market, and shifting the market as such.
Yeah.
Congratulations,
Thank
Nelson.
you.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.